Top of the day to you, and welcome to another episode of Power Chat right here on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM Abuja. My name is Uju Onwachukwu, Her Vocal Majesty. Today, I have the rare privilege of hosting a very, very vital figure in our nation who has worn various caps and is still serving in a very massive position of authority. And it has to do with health. That's why I said very, very important. Without wasting any time, let me just go straight to the introductions. He's a renowned Nigerian medical practitioner, public health specialist, and former legislator here in Nigeria, who currently serves as the chairman of the Governing Council of the National Health Insurance Authority, NHIA, Senator Ibrahim Yahaya Oloriegbe. Thank you for joining me on the program, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir. All right. Now, your story and your journey is quite an interesting one, from the medical field to the legislature. What happened? How did you get there? What was the push? What was the drive?
Well, okay. I think the push and drive is before being a medical doctor.
Right.
While being a student, I was a student leader, both for my community, the Ilorin Student Union, as it was then. Now it is named as the Ilorin Emirate Student Union. The national body I contested, I won to be financial secretary of the organization.
Okay.
But while in the university itself, that's what they call Student Representative Assembly in ABU Zaria then. And I contested and won 3 times to be a member of the Student Representative Assembly in Zaria when I was in my year 1. That is what we call 200 levels now, because then ABU did not have 100 levels. You have to enter after your A level. So my 200, that is part 1 medicine, my part 2, and when I was in the clinical year. So I was a member of the Student Representative Assembly. Subsequently, I became the vice president of the Student Union in Zaria, representing the medical student, because the medical student usually contest for vice president.
Okay.
And then, because we had a different campus. So I could say probably politicking started from there.
From there.
But then, in addition to that, being in the student and in the community student union, I was very strong in my community social group, which we call Ilorin Descendant Progressive Union, as it was when I was really serving.
Okay.
It's now Ilorin Emirate Descendant Progressive Union. As far back as 1986, when I served in Kano, I joined the group. And in the 90s, I was the local executive of IDPU in Kano. I later was a member of the executive in the Northern Zone.
Okay.
So, and subsequently, when I returned back to Ilorin in 1996, when I moved from Kano to Ilorin, I was a member of the National Executive Council. So all these are services. I mean, either serving the students or serving my community through the biggest socioeconomic group that bring all things together. Of course, my joining partisan politics was in 1996.
Okay. And
it was part of the community service. While I was in IDPU, then in my area, which is the lowest level of politics in the world, there was a kind of conflict in appointing or in nominating somebody that will contest for the ward councillor. And somebody from my compound was one of those that contested, and he felt he was cheated. So I have to now go to the political ward meeting to be able to listen and now see how we can resolve it. And based on that, my participation in the resolution, the ward executive said, "Oh, we needed somebody like you to do." I was a medical doctor practicing. I had my private practice in Ilorin then. I've moved from Kano to Ilorin. So, and they felt I've been giving my education, giving my understanding of the issues I should come. And because I've had experience of serving before, so that's what makes me to join partisan politics 1996. When, that was during the late General Abacha's political transition program. That's when I seek to become House of Assembly which I got the nomination and I got elected. So
Wow,
I want to
that's
make it short. So that's just to say, how did I transform? So it's quite a long history.
Quite a long history, quite an interesting one, because as a student, a medical student at that, how are you able to find the time?
Well, it depends on the interest, and I wasn't
Right.
bad. I wasn't a bad student. I never had any receipt on. So in fact, I had distinctions in many of my subjects. So
that's interesting.
It's just the passion to serve, I would say. That was it.
That's quite interesting. Thank you so much for taking us down memory lane. Now let's talk about your tenure as senator from 2019 to 2023. You leveraged your expertise to lead health policy in the National Assembly. You served as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, chairman of the Joint National Assembly Committee on Health as well. Talk to us about what that experience, being in that position of making policy versus being in the position now of executing policies. What would you say is the difference?
Well, not much difference. All is about service. Now, before I got to the National Assembly, my background had been managing big health programs. But not only that, I was in a society group advocating for changes in health. Right. I'm one of those privileged to actually draft the National Health Act in 2004. By that time, I was leading a development program known as Change Agent Program, but which we transformed into an NGO, a national NGO for advocacy for health. Okay. So through the time when I was managing the Health Sector Reform Foundation, which is an outshoot of the Change Agent Program, I've been involved in advocating for major changes in the health sector. Okay. One of which was the National Health Act, which I said was National Health Bill, which I was one of those three that drafted. I was the lead person. I didn't want to go into the story of that. Okay. But during that time, we also advocated for a lot of changes in human resource for health, in health financing, and so on. So coming to the Senate was an opportunity to now make what we call the big change, because I had the privilege of being in the driving seat. So a lot of the issues that we've been trying to advocate for, engaging with people in the legislature and the executive, I had the opportunity to do that. Now, transiting now, after leaving National Assembly, to be chairman of the National Health Insurance, I would say it's a continuum. It's a continuum because, just like as I said, while I was outside the National Assembly, while I was managing health programs or advocating for health, for changes in the sector, I got into the National Assembly, where I was able to use that to drive quite a lot of major changes in the sector. We can go into that, I mean, through motions, through bill, through oversight. But then, now finding myself in this position, it's because a bill or a law is actually an intent, it's a policy intent. So its implementation will be to be able to bring that intent. As we always said, even when the court wants to interpret a law, the court will try to look at what is the intent of the legislators that drafted or that produced that law. So when an implementer wants to implement a law, it is to be able to look at what's the intent. So it's an advantage for me now, being the fact that I was in the National Assembly, to know what were the intentions of that legislation, so the new National Health Insurance Authority Act 2022, which I sponsored, which I championed, and which eventually got a sign. So this is what I could say about, I mean, it's not really a transition, it's a continuum, that's what I was saying.
Right, all right. I want to assume that there's a level of fulfillment that comes from, this was something you birthed, and now you're overseeing it, so to speak.
Yes, it's a lot of fulfillment.
You've seen it come to life.
It's a lot of fulfillment. There's the one before then. The National Health Act I mentioned was one of those things that it took 10 years for the bill to become a law. Right. And then it took another 4 years, because I was outside then, for actually a major part of the bill to become implemented. The National Health Act was signed into law by President Jonathan in 2014, but it was the National Assembly, the 8th Assembly, under the leadership of Senator Teju Osho, that actualized the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund through National Assembly, in fact, by putting the money in the budget. But what was the intent? wasn't that the money should be in capital or should be in service-wide vote. It was supposed to be a first-line charge. So when I got there, knowing the intent, I was able to get it immediately to become a first-line charge, because it's 1% of consolidated revenue fund. It should be something that will be released before they share other things for capital. So I was able to get that done by the first budget that we passed in 2020. I got on in 2019. So it was 2018 where they had the first allocation, in 2019. But those 2 years, the release, because it is in service-wise vote, was barely 50%. But when I got there from 2020, it became first line charge. And then since then, up to now, Basic Healthcare Provision Fund is released. The 39-point-something billion that was released of recent is just part of it. That is what is in the 2025 budget. Because it's released as first line charge. So that is what we talk about when you talk about how one gets fulfilled from, that was the intent then. For the National Health Insurance Authority, of course, it's a big fulfillment. I thank once again President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for giving me this position. Of course, I was asked which of the positions will I wanted. I mean, in terms of chairmanship. And I said, well, this is what I want because it's something that I had the privilege and opportunity to champion. As such, if I find myself in the seat where I have to oversight as a council, because the council, by virtue of Section 5 and 6 of the law, has the responsibility for policies, for all oversight and all other things as far as the agency is concerned.
That's right. All right, great. That's interesting. Now, let's talk about the NHIA Act. It has made insurance mandatory, and it's a big shift from what it used to be. As a leader, or as the chairman of the Governing Council of NHIA, what's your action plan to ensure that this policy will reach the informal sector, the market woman, the bus conductor, those people who are not necessarily on payrolls, which is how a lot of the insurance in the corporate sector is being administered. How do you intend to break this down to get to the informal sector? Yeah,
let me start first that insurance is about pool.
Right.
The first thing we've done, which came on board, I was appointed in March, and one of the first push I made is for the mandatory provisions to be implemented. And we look at what is the low-hanging fruit in that one. And what you see as low-hanging fruit is, first of all, the organized sector. That's why I say it's a pool.
Right.
I know your question is about the informal sector, but I will lead to that. So I want to put on record that we'll be able to get, and we thank the President on September 3rd, 2025, the President issued an executive order that all ministries, departments, and agencies must implement the mandatory insurance for all their employees. But not only that, that any entity that want to do procurement for government must now obtain an NHIA certificate showing that all our employees have been enrolled into health insurance, what you call the basic health insurance package. So not only that, anybody requiring to do business with any government MDAs, when you say business, for example, you want to obtain a loan from Bank of Industries, you must be able to show that either you are Greek or anything, from Bank of Greek, from all those kind of things, you must show that you have health insurance. We are trying to get it if you want to obtain a license, driver's license, you must show that you have health insurance. That is what the executive order says.
Wow,
So for you to obtain, in which case, what you are saying, it means that executive order is already extending beyond not just looking at ministries, department and agencies, but it involves every citizen that has anything to do with the government. Particularly federal government. That is what the executive order is. Our expectation, which is where we are going to now, is that all the 36 state government and FCT will follow suit with what the federal government has, what the president has done, to issue similar executive order, so that if you have to do anything with state government, either you want to obtain contracts of state government, you want to obtain license, you want to do these things, you must show NHIA certificate. And NHIA has built a platform to do that. Now, your question is about how do we get the informal sector engaged? There are already before now various schemes that have that. One of the things we're introducing is that several of these informal sectors, they have what we call cooperatives. So what we are pushing up for, which is part of the policies we have developed, is that the health maintenance organizations should go out there to engage all the various artisan groups to get them through their cooperative society. In many of the cities in Nigeria, the artisans have unions. You have bricklayer unions, carpenter unions, welder unions, organizer unions. Engage with these unions so that they can enroll their members. Particularly, what we told them is that they have to develop a system where payment for premium will not be just that they can pay in bulk, because most of these workers, they are daily earning. They don't earn every month or so that their premium can be spread. So it includes the market women, you said also, the market groups, they have associations.
That's true.
And they have cooperative societies. That is how we want to get to them. Of course, NHIA has a program even before now, which is known as giftship. That is a group, individual health insurance scheme. So that's enabling individuals to be able to enroll. It's been promoted through media and so on and so forth, but that's not really got to where it to go to. But for us to really get more people to be, I think it's the state health insurance. Every state in the country and FCT, they have health insurance schemes, or health insurance agency, rather, let me put it like that. And the social insurance scheme, where they have a benefit from the federal government through the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, which we pay to be, which NHIA disburse money to state for them to be able to provide insurance for the vulnerable group in their state. Our expectation is the state insurance are the ones that will go out there to get the group you are talking, the informal sector, to be there. But we must, I don't know, let me extend the answer to say that when we talk about informal group, are people that earn money. But in Nigeria, we have quite significant number of population who are poor, who are vulnerable. Poor in terms of the fact that they live below poverty line. They don't have up to $2 per day. And they are a majority. We have not less than something million people in that category. Who is to pay for this? And that is the big thing that the Vulnerable Group Fund was supposed to take care of. The Vulnerable Group Fund ought to be a contribution by federal government, by state government, and then by donors, individuals, and so on. And that is what can make Nigerian insurance to be robust enough to cover people. And this vulnerable group, of course, is there in that act as well. We created it. Of course, it has an history behind. We wanted to how we want to fund it. But the provision we put there, which was the minimum, is that government budget to be there. The federal government started in 2024 by allocating 5 billion to it. This year, I think it's reduced about 2 billion or so. But this is not enough. But it's already doing something, because the fund, the current ministers, that's the Ministry of Health, through their policies, identify some groups that are vulnerable. Those ones include the women that suffers from VVF. So every woman that has VVF in Nigeria is now covered free. VVF is vaginal fistula, which is a hole linking the bladder, where the urine is, to where the child comes out from. It is usually from childbirth. And they are one of those, the lowest of the lowest indicator of human being, because people, they are rejected and so on and so forth. They don't have money. So the Vulnerable Group Fund is taking care of that. In addition, the Vulnerable Group Fund is now also taking care of what they call the emergency obstetric care. That is maternal and child care for every woman who's poor that requires a cesarean section. In all over the country, at this state now, there's a dedicated hospital where you can go and you get free obstetric maternal care. It's been extended to the neonatal care now also. That is it's a program ongoing. It's NHIA that's implementing it using the Vulnerable Group Fund. But I must say, the Vulnerable Group Fund that is being used now is not only the government fund. There are also part of partners funding coming into it, which is what the bill actually, what the law, the act envisage. It's been extended also to cancer. Some selected cancer now. Already we have a program before by NHIA in partnership with Roche to cover cancers of the breast and cervix. But they are trying to extend it now to blood cancer through funding coming from the government. So, because the people Nigerians suffering from cancers are vulnerable also because cancer care is very expensive. And almost not everybody in Nigeria, nobody can afford the total. It depends on the stage. We are mostly in Nigeria when people are diagnosed is at the late stage. So this is what the vulnerable group fund is doing now. But it's not enough yet.
I was going to ask, is it really been implemented? Because we still hear stories of maternal death as a result of, late and things like that.
It's being implemented.
What's the ratio of beneficiaries?
It's about the awareness. No, this is quite huge. Right. I mean, a lot of people, there's a lot of announcement about it and so on. There's publication about the hospitals in each state. Right. Every state of the country
all 36 states.
All the 36 states have been covered now, where if you need cesarean section and you are poor, you get treated, and then the NHIA pay for it. It's there.
Okay, that's
the thing is about you being identified as poor and registering ahead. But if it's emergency, also once you present, you get paid, you get covered.
Interesting.
It's been implemented. It's known as CMOC. It's a comprehensive emergency maternal and obstetric care CMOC program.
Okay, that's quite interesting to note because we hear it as though it's something that is still being proposed. It's not yet, getting down to the
proposal. It's already been implemented.
To the people,
it's trickling down to the people. It's already been implemented.
Wow, that's quite impressive. Now let's talk about brain drain. Of course, this conversation won't happen without brain drain in medicine, particularly. During your time as Senate Health Committee Chair, you were, of course, intimate with the Japa syndrome, and beyond just increasing salaries, what other policy that has nothing to do with salaries now is the NHIA prioritizing to help us retain our top medical talent? Because it's almost as though a medical student or a medical doctor who's practicing here, it's almost as though they are not sharp if they are still remaining in Nigeria. Is there anything apart from just increase? Is there anything apart from the
what I want to say first is not NHIA that could do much to assist with JAPA and to assist with retention of skills in Nigeria. However, NHIA can contribute, but there are major interventions that the government has to do as a policy.
Okay.
For NHIA side, if the way we are doing, we are trying to expand the coverage. Because, as I said, insurance is a pool. The bigger your pool, the more resources available, and the better you can pay for services.
Okay.
Before now, it was only the employed people in government, particularly federal government, that are covered. That's a very small pool, and then very few in the organized private sector. But with this mandatory executive order, with the basic healthcare provision that's expanding and so on, that coverage is expanding. It means there is more resources. Now, if insurance works well, it means healthcare providers will get additional resources. Let me come back to say that by April this year, the NHIA increases what they pay, because hitherto what is being paid is very poor. And that's one of the reasons why people on insurance they are treated as if they are not. They are not on insurance. I don't know, because of the amount of premium that is paid to NHIA and the amount of capitation and fee for service that is paid. So NHIA increases the fee for service. The fee for service is what is given for secondary school by about 300%. Yes, that's from April. Okay. Now, but let me relate you to what you now ask. If we are able to expand the coverage and we have more resources, it means doctors, nurses, pharmacists who are providing services will have better pay in terms of resources that comes to them. With this, it's hope that their conditions individual will be better. It's not salary now. It is about the working environment I'm talking about. Right. However, to answer your question specifically, to increase retention, what makes people to go are both something within health and something without health. The issues without health is not in the health sector. The general security in the country needs to be improved because health workers are highly skilled people, and because their services are required all over the world, once you have insecurity and so on, because their services requires they move. So it's not because of salary alone. But then, I've mentioned working environment, but working environment is not only about the fact that they have the necessary equipment and so on to do the best they can, because that's one of the reasons why people, they have the talent, but you don't have necessary equipment. With more money in the sector, you can have that. But what about their family? Their children have to go to school, particularly if you have to post somebody to a general hospital, which is outside the state capital and so on. You need to be able to provide good schools. You need to be able to provide good accommodation. Then there are incentives just such as making cars available to doctors at a cheaper rate. That is, in our time when we graduated, during the time when I graduated university, as a graduate, once you get a job, you are given at a 504. That was what is it then. If you are an NCE, you get a Volkswagen or a Lada. That was what was happening in Nigeria. It stopped in 1984, actually.
Wow.
Up and until 1984, as a graduate, you get a new. It's a new car, not what they call Tokumbo now. So that is what operates. But now, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a pharmacist. You cannot afford even any car. So one of the incentives will be that as a package, they should make that to be. Then there should be a package for housing. So these are things that are non-salary, which are incentives that can retain our health workers better.
All right, we'll take a quick break here. It's still Power Chat on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM Abuja. And I have been speaking with Senator Ibrahim Yahaya Oloriegbe. He's the chairman of the Governing Council of the National Health Insurance Authority. When we come back from the break, we'll continue our conversation. But before we go, were you a doctor before 1985 or were you a graduate before? Tell me about it.
I graduated in 1985.
No, I'm asking my audience to know whether they received the car because, you know.
No, I didn't receive the car. The car said, no, I didn't.
1984 was when it stopped. When it
stopped. That is the first coming of Buhari Diagman.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
But my colleagues who were my classmates, who didn't read medicine,
received in 1984 before it stopped.
Because, I mean, those that were my age group and my age mate, who will enter University 79, as SBS 1980 year one, they did 3 years course. They graduated in 1983.
Oh, wow.
So they served 83, 84. So they were engaged in 1984. I have a lot of friends who read pharmacies.
That's amazing.
So you get my point. Or who read engineering and so on, who graduated in 1983 because they read 3 years course. I read a 5 years course, so I graduated 1985. So by our own, we are the first to suffer the issue of no car.
Okay, I think I'll start a petition, bring back cars for graduates. We'll be right back after the break. Thank you for staying tuned. It's still Power Chat right here on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM. So, Senator Oloriegbe, Chairman, Governing Council, National Health Insurance Authority. I've been having so much fun having this conversation and I'm learning so much. Now it's time for us to take a step back into your legislative service. And we're going to be looking at your tenure in the 9th Senate. And let's talk about any legislative achievement outside of the NHIA Act. Which one do you believe will have the most enduring impact on everyday Nigerians?
Well, I think it's my work on the Mental Health Act. So, hitherto, before I came to the Senate, the only legislation in the Nigerian statutes book on mental health was the Lunacy Act of 1918, which in 1958 was adopted for Lagos area. And even from the term Lunacy Act, it means it's not only derogatory for people suffering from mental disorders, but the provisions are also fundamentally against human rights. It treats people that have mental health as if they cause the issue, they cause the problem for themselves. So once you are diagnosed to have one, you are taken to asylum, chained and so on. That is the provision of the law. You don't have a right to own properties. They can sell your property to take care of you without your consent. You don't have to give consent or participate in your management and your treatment. This was the law. So there had been effort, more than 25 years before I came on board, to change that law to what is a modern law that recognizes mental health disorders as just like any other illness, that recognizes the fundamental rights of people that are affected, and that establishes a system through which mental health services can be delivered, particularly integrating it with primary, secondary care, and making specific provision for this. So this was one of the major achievements I accomplished as a senator, because I now championed and sponsored that bill, and the bill went through all the process and became an act and was signed into law. The bill brings Nigeria into a committee of nations that are putting mental health in its proper perspective, recognizing the fundamental rights of people that are suffering from it. But not only that, the bill provided for the establishment of departments in the Federal Ministry of Health and the states, for the states to adapt that law to have that. The department is to be able to be in charge of policies, programs, and interventions that will ensure that people with mental health disorders are taken care of.
Okay.
Then there's what we established, the mental health care fund in that particular act. So this act will affect everybody because mental health disorder, by WHO figure, 1 in 4 of every community or society have mental health disorder. When we talk about mental health disorders, it's not the individual you see there who's roaming the street. Okay. That's the major disorder. That's schizophrenia. So, but everybody, you have one form of anxieties, you have sleep disorders. People don't know that when you can't sleep well, it's because it's a mental health disorder. You have depression, either minor or major depression. Okay. All these affect productivities. There are several other bipolar disorders and so on, where you see somebody happy now, you see somebody sad tomorrow. Yesterday I was watching a TV, a very major, very rich guy who wrote a book who suffers from depression. It's because he had support. That's why he was able to bring out the issue of mental health. So when you talk about mental health, when you look at, if you have staff, you have workers, if you do an assessment of their mental health, you find about 1 in 4, 1 in 8 of them, minimum 1 in 8, will suffer from one form or the other. And if you don't treat or cure that, it affects productivity. So that piece of legislation has impact on Nigerians. If I may add again, there's something related to that. It's also on mental health. I was able to get the government through a bill to establish a new federal neuropsychiatric hospital in Budu-Egba in Kwara State, where I come from. Hitherto, before I came, we had 8 federal neuropsychiatry in the country, spread across 5 out of the 6 geopolitical zones that are in the country. The Northwest geopolitical zone has 2 psychiatric centers, Sokoto and Kaduna. The Northeast has 1 in Maiduguri. The Southwest has 2, one in Aro, Abeokuta, and in Lagos. The Southeast has in Enugu, and South has 2 in Calabar and Oselu in Benin. But North Central, with 6 states, where I come from, had none. So I was able to get, through the legislative proceedings, to get and establish a federal psychiatry in Kwara, which serve for the North Central zone and the whole of Nigeria. So, of course, there are other, you've mentioned the NHIA, there's also the, but these particular 2 acts will have impact and already have impact on every Nigerian. Thank you.
That's quite impressive. I see that most of the legislation that you push for are health related because of your practice, because of your
what is
background?
That yes, I do have some other legislation that I push. Yeah. But yes, health, because as you often said, you look at one of the critical things, management. Yeah. Because I have a background in that. You should look at where do you have comparative advantage and where do you have strength. I have 2, 3 comparative advantages in health. Not only my background as a medical doctor, now I was chairman committee on health, in which case I am in the sector, I oversight the sector, I have a better influence on the sector. Yeah. The third one is what I've said earlier. I have had a background of being an advocate for various reforms in health. So I was able to propose 15 bills. Out of these 15 bills, I think 10 or so, or 11 of them were in the areas of health. Wow. So I have in education, there's a bill on the establishment of Federal College of Education in my constituency. There's one, which is now, the amendment of JAM Act to make the age for university, for people to do JAM, to make it as a matured age, so of 16, which is what that proposal. Then I have something on health education. It's not really health, but it is a more general one. Then more importantly, there was a bill which are sponsored, which is to amend the CAMAS Act, Company and Allied Matter Act. The essence is because the act we passed in 2020 was very detrimental to non-governmental organizations. Our provision in it, which empowers CAC to dissolve NGOs, including faith-based organizations, appoint a receiver and so on. And it mandates them to file their returns twice in a year, whereas companies are to file once in a year. So that proposal went in. You couldn't finish it. It went through second reading and so on. In fact, we had the report. But because CAN went to court, so it has to stop it. But it's a bill that is now coming back again because I'm still part of the group that outside that the Senate championing for that to happen. So I have some other bills which are just to be able to go around.
Of course.
That yes, health was major for that reason, but there are other areas because I was vice chairman, Committee on Diaspora and Non-Governmental Organization. So and I was actually acting chairman for many of the for about 2 years. It's because the person appointed as chairman didn't take it up. So that is what brought me to the CAMAS bill. That's
quite impressive. So you are more like an all-rounder.
Well, yes. Of course, I have effect on several. I mean, my motions and so on, on several other sectors. I was a member of several other committees, and I was very active.
That's good.
Local and foreign debt, I was a very active member of that. Basic education, gas. I was a member of gas, police affairs.
So you have cross-sectoral
very many cross-sectoral
experience.
If you check, either if you are able to go through the answer of the Senate, you will see my contribution. Or you take through committee records.
That's amazing. Now let's talk about, moving from majority leader in the State Assembly to NHIA CEO, NHIA Chairman, Governing Council. How does your legislative experience, which is quite deep, and your leadership experience generally, how does it inform your current approach to navigating sensitive relationship between federal and state health ministries?
Yes.
All of that experience, how you put it into play now?
One, as you said, I had operated at the state level as member of state legislature for 4 years, 1999-2003. And there I was a majority leader. I was chairman health committee. I was chairman local government committee. So I have a very good understanding of the state. But before coming to Senate, I had years of managing big health program, one of which was what we call Working to Improve Nutrition in Northern Nigeria, which was implemented in 6 states. Katsina, Yobe, Jigawa, Kebbi, and Zamfara State.
Okay.
So this was, I was the executive secretary, what we call chief of party. Now, what I want to bring out from that is that gave me the opportunity to engage very, very closely and intensively with state ministries of health, with state leadership, the governors, and so on. So all this one came on board. Now with the Senate, as chairman of the Senate committee, as senators, we also interact because we have, like the Senate Committee on Health, the health sector, we have in all the states of the Federation, a federal tertiary institution, either teaching hospital or federal medical center. And most of these, they interact with the state. So for most of the time, when we have to oversight, when we have to engage, that's interesting. So I, with all sense of humility, have a robust experience of not only working with state, but advocating and navigating with the state. So coming on board now is quite not challenging to be able to work with state government, to use our position, support the DG to be able to engage with the state health insurance authorities, with state commissioners, and with state governors through the Nigerian Governors Forum.
So it's a seamless operation for having been,
particularly I've had a lot of interactions with the Nigerian Governors Forum through because when we were at the Senate, when we had COVID, our committee oversight COVID, and we have to engage with a lot of states. And I have a robust relationship with the Nigerian Governors Forum.
That's great. Now let's look at the future of governance, a bit of your political philosophies. So beyond party, beyond region, what is that philosophy that guides your approach to public service? Because you just recounted a bit of history, right, from, when you were in school and whatnot. So what is that personal philosophy that guides your approach to public service? And then how do you reconcile it with the pressure of the Nigerian political landscape There's a lot of
I'll be very
interferences.
practical with the answer. My philosophy has always been service with honesty, humility, and evidence base.
Right.
And to be focused on what the issues are.
Right.
Without losing sight of illusions. I call it illusions because people's demand and so on are illusions. But more importantly is my own this is to be focused. And I've had deep experience of this, even from student union day. I remember being in the state when we were in the student union. Despite our student union politics, we are legislators, SLA, we call it Student Legislative Assembly, and there is the executive who are the union leaders then. There was an issue of embezzlement of student funds, and I was a member of the committee. I recall then the then executive wanted to even at that level to bribe me, and I look at it that that's a fact, but I look at it and say no. We are appointed like this. I'm very pleased to say that I was in the committee. We recommended for the removal of the executive concern was the social secretary. So I was as strict as that, even as young as it is. Now, coming to public sector, I've been in the House of Assembly. I served in Kwara. I can say with all sense of humility, I was a very firm person. Okay. People tell me to be that when you are firm and you focus only on your work, people may think you're arrogant. And as a senator, I must say, if you check the record, I try to deliver across all board for my constituency. I'll be able to mention to you now, I have at least 5 key long-lasting legacies, which will last forever. I mentioned one of them to you, the one that the National Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital is well established now. It has employed or recruited more than 300 people. It's providing services. I have another hospital which I established, which is linked with a satellite center for teaching hospital. It is also delivering services, and several like that. But in doing this, I must admit there's pressure.
Of course.
But it is about, my own focus is about what service we deliver. And that is what's giving joy now. I've left office, but I'm happy to be able to look back at what is it that I'm able to put. And people are able to now look at that, and people are able to use my service as benchmark for those that came before me and as those that are coming after. It is not easy because, as I said, you have to identify the illusions and not allow the illusions to influence you.
Wow.
It is the philosophy of do what is right, be honest, and look at what will benefit the majority, not to benefit the individual. The Nigerian political philosophy is always that let's take care of the stomach. And when you take care of the stomach, it's about individual. It's not last long. You give people money to people, you do this. Yes, philanthropy is there, but philanthropy and services are different. And that's what I have done. I have a foundation and so on, and I do philanthropy even long before I became senator. Give people scholarship, support. Many people have benefited through me. Even before I was senator, whatever small thing that got, but I don't see those ones as service. I see it as part of my religious obligation. But the service I'm coming to is that if I'm giving resources of the people, the resources should be used for what is best for people, what will serve the majority, not what will serve the individual or the minority. This is my philosophy.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, now let's look 5 years ahead. What's one key policy area that's whether health or outside of health, education, like you've mentioned, where you believe National Assembly needs to demonstrate bolder legislative action?
I would think that energy will be a critical area that we need to be bold in this country. Of course, education will come, but I say energy because if we get our energy very right, we are likely to be able to industrialize and build our infrastructure better. And when we industrialize, we'll put more people to jobs. When we have more people at job, it will have effect on security. It will have effect on education. It will have effect on health. And it will have effect on our infrastructure. Because if you have good energy, let me start with the cost of production for industries will be lower.
Yeah.
And that means there will be more money for those industries to do more work and to get more human resources on this. Because the money we are, if you talk of, like, if you are interviewing me now, this office today, we have been running on generators since morning. Wow. So it's additional cost to us. That's because we are not, as simple as the office is. So talk of a factory and so on. So the cost of items are higher because of the cost of energy. And that means industries and so on inspire than that. So when we talk about bold and energy is that the Net Assembly passed the power sector, that is why it was regulated, but a lot of investment needs to be done in that. Particularly, we need to explore the new technology as far as energy is concerned. Solar, wind, and all other energies. This country is ripe to be able to develop nuclear energy. What I'm saying is that nuclear energy for energy purpose. I'm not talking for war. So, because we have huge population, and you cannot industrialize without energy. So, National Assembly should be able to look and go beyond what the Data Assembly has done as far as regulation is concerned, to be able to say how that it has. Because you say one single thing, I think it has that particular sector has multiplier effect on several other sectors.
All right, thank you so much. I want to ask you one more question because from your all of your experiences, both in the states and in the federal legislature, you have shown leadership, and like you mentioned, your type of leadership is with evidence. I want you to share a thought on leadership with us. How do you go about your leadership style, or what kind of leadership style will you encourage people in positions, whatever the positions may be? What principle would you want to share with them to be able to garner as much success as you have over your...
Of course, the question of leadership is a complex question. I'm a student of management and leadership. I've attended several leadership training. My master's, as I said, was in coaching and consulting for change, but never training. There are stories that we say leaders are born, leaders are made, whatever it is. But I think leaders are made is what I will go to. There was one of the calls that we said that you can look at a leader from perspective of an actor. There's a theory like that. Maybe you've not heard that. The thing is this: an actor is trained to be able to play a role. Isn't it?
Yes.
So a leader at a stage may be an actor. You have to play roles. But to play a role means, what do you need? You need training. You need some competencies and skill to be able to play that role. So it means to be a good leader, there are preparations. It's not just everybody that jump into leadership. Right. And I think there are examples all over. One of the challenges we have in this country is that everybody aspires for leaders. Maybe you don't have a preparation to be in the position of leadership where you are. But look at one of the countries that's most successful in the world that I admire is Singapore. You see what they select. I even look at China. Look at their leadership selection process. Who are the people that lead the Communist Party? So as such, I am from the view that one, there's a kind of element of preparation to leadership, in which case you have basic educations, you have basic skill, you have competencies and skill for you to come into leadership. Just like that's why only when you have those preparations, you can lead well. But then, a leader is not a dictator. But a leader has to give... Leadership is different from management. A manager works based on guidelines. You have set guidelines for a manager. A manager manages. Manages means that, okay, you are managing, this is the rule. This rule says A, B, C, D, you are supposed to tick it. But a leader gives directives. That means, for you to give directives means, one, you must be able to be a team player. You allow you receive informations about contributions. And you now process those information, reach a conclusions, and give directive. That is ultimate of a leadership. Awesome. From 20%. So therefore, building on what I've said, a good leader must have those preparations to be able to receive those information, to be able to analyze those information, process it, and come up with giving a directive. But outside that, a leader needs element of credibility. Credibility comes from being honest, being sincere. A leader does not know it all. So part of sincerity and credibility is for you to accept where you don't know and learn where you don't know. That is where, in that situation, that's why I talk about teamwork. A leader sometimes have to have some characteristics of a manager. Because how do a manager do? A manager base his own based on the guidelines. So a leader also must have some kind of checklist to be able to assess. And as I say, credibility and honesty means you accept when you are wrong, and then you accept when you are right. So, but then you learn. A leader needs to be a learner. Wow. So learning for leadership is reflection. A leader needs to be a reflector more than a reactive person. So the reflection, you have to reflect. A leader, part of what he said is that a leader is supposed to have what they call an aeroplane view of issues. So a manager gets involved, part of the distance, but a leader will have to remove himself or herself from the issues, be on top. That's what we call reflection. So when you do that reflection, well, as a leader, you'll be able to look at much more of the issues and come up with a directive. Because as we said, leader became director at the end of the day. These are some of what I will share.
That's amazing. We need to have a rematch where we have a proper leadership consultation. Proper. Thank you so much, Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloriegbe, the Chairman, Governing Council of the National Health Insurance Authority, NHIA. It has been an awesome time having this conversation with you. I've learned so much. It's like 3 programs in one. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate you. And to you who sat back, watched and listened, thank you also. My name is Uchu. Don't forget, you can follow us on YouTube and all our social media pages at Democracy Radio 104.9. Catch this interview live Wednesday, 11 a.m. on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bar Chat comes your way next same time next week. Goodbye.